All right. So hello everyone. It is not 4 p.m. Pacific right now, which is when I'm scheduled to stream. I've got an event tonight, so I am going to do my stream now. And, you know, maybe I'll pop in at 4 Pacific and do something like really quick. But, yeah. So we're going to go through the scheduled content right now. Just earlier in the day, so that we can take care of it, get it out of the way, and we can do more things afterwards. So let me know how you're doing in the chat. I always like to hear from people as I'm streaming, so let me know what's up, what you're working on, stuff like that. We're going to do some After Effects today. So I've got a couple things in here. I've got this little image from Adobe Stock, it's some grass. And I have this voiceover wave file. We created this some time ago in one of my other streams for doing clean voiceovers. So we're going to use this voiceover file to generate some audio visualization inside of After Effects. So the first thing we need to do is to create a new composition. So I'm going to click this new composition tile right here. And there we go. So I usually make my comps at 1280 by 720 for the stream. Works out pretty good. It's still HD, but it's small enough that it's not like a big deal to work with, right? For duration, I don't know, I'll put in 60. I don't know how long this should be. We can always trim it down later. And frame rate at 30 is just fine. So I'm gonna hit OK, make that comp. And now we can start interacting with the timeline down here, right? So first thing I'm gonna do, pull down my wave file. That's our audio. Now if I hit L twice on the keyboard, we get our waveform view where we can see the entire waveform. So you see here, we didn't need the full 60 seconds, the full minute, because the voiceover is fine like this. So here is what the voiceover actually sounds like.
Still trying to get that yard into shape? Enough is enough, I say. A real man isn't afraid of asking for a little help, is he? Well, I know when I called Landscape 911.
All right, we're not going to listen to the whole stupid thing. But one thing we do want to do is to put some text in for Landscape 911. But before I do that, I'm going to pull in our stock footage here. So this is a free asset that you can get off of Adobe Stock. Adobe Stock has a bunch of free assets to it. I've been making very liberal use of these assets in my streams lately. So yeah, here we go. We've got our blurry, or not blurry, but our grass. I'm going to make it a little blurry. And I'm also going to keyframe it a bit. So as the piece goes on, I want to change its position. And let's scale it down a bit, actually. So it's something like this. We can start that out right here. And we're just going to change its position so it goes along, right? I can create a new solid here too. So let's create a new solid. We're going to make that just completely white. And my little guys keep popping up on the other monitor. There we go. There's our white solid. And we'll bring that down below. So there we go. There's our grass. There's our white solid behind it. And what we want to do is turn on our stopwatch for position. It inserts a keyframe right there at the beginning. And then we'll go all the way to the end. And we'll insert a keyframe there. And pretty much just shift this over, right? Something like that.
Still trying to get that yard into shape? Enough is enough, I say. A real man isn't afraid of asking.
So yes, this is a silly little voiceover. This was taken from, I can't remember what the resource was. You can look back at my older replays for when we created this voiceover, but it's basically for a long company, and it's just ridiculous, the narration to it. All right, so let's have a look here. Yeah, so that does that. I'm going to lock that, and I'm also going to lock my solid. The solid doesn't need to do anything. It's there just to have a white background, right? I'm going to lock my wave file too. So to actually generate some sort of visuals based off of this, we need to create some data off of this wave file. But as mentioned, first I want to create some text. So here's my type tool. Landscape 911. All right, so it's super ugly right now. I want to take landscape down, and we're using a font called Blackbeard. We'll change the color of the text with our eyedropper tool here. Just sample from the grass, right? And let's see what else. Let's make this a bit smaller. I want 911 to be pretty large. So we'll pull that up, and for the whole thing, let's go ahead and take that down a bit. Go into our paragraph settings and center that. There we go. That looks pretty good. So we're basically making like a little ad, like a little piece for Landscape 911, since that's what is actually mentioned inside of our content there. We'll shift that center point right there. And let's see. If I go to my align panel, I can align it to my composition like that. And let's hold down shift and just get that up there. All right, cool. So now what we got?
A real man.
Oh man, I need to just kill that stupid thing. And what I'm gonna do is just turn that down a bit locally here.
Asking for a little help, is he?
A little help.
Well, I know when I called because it was an emergency, as they called it, they arrived almost immediately with a crew that would have been
All right, got our ridiculous narration going. And what I want to do is lock this down as well. That's not going to change. And actually, I might want to move that a little bit. We'll kind of see how this works as we get into it, right? So if I need to change this a bit, that's fine. Maybe I'll put it down there. All right, so what we also need to do is to extract our audio data as keyframes. So that's like a super easy thing to do. You just kind of right click on your WAV file or whatever your audio format is, and you choose Keyframe Assistant, and look at that, convert audio to keyframes. So let's go ahead and do that. And what we get is this guy up here, audio amplitude. So with audio amplitude, we have a left-right channel, or we have both channels, and we have a property for that. So what we can do with this audio amplitude, you can see here that we've got little keyframes, right? Every frame got a little keyframe to it, which corresponds to basically the volume of the audio as we're going through this, right? So what we want to do is map that to certain properties, and that's what we're going to do. So there's two ways we're going to go about this. The first way is to create a new solid. So let's go ahead and create that solid. So another new solid, this is our second one. And it doesn't really matter what color it is. I'm just gonna make it like green for the grass. And there we go. We get a new green solid right there above everything else. And what I'm going to want to do is actually create this as some sort of a shape. So if we look up here, there's a number of different tools we can use for shapes. There's the pen tool, there's the rectangle tool, the star tool, and so forth. Polygon tool. I'm just going to choose the ellipse tool. And let's go to the very center here and hold down Command Shift and just bring that out. Something like that size, right? So what we're going to do is actually use this path to define a visualization effect for our audio. This is the first thing we're going to do. And for this, we're going to go into our effects and presets, and we can scroll down audio here. And actually, that's not what I want to do. I don't want audio there. Let's search for audio. Yeah, it's actually under the generate category. So we can choose audio spectrum or audio waveform. They're both neat how they work, right? So let's do waveform first. So you can see the waveform right here. It doesn't do anything just yet. And actually, we can turn off our mask and shape rendering right there.
A little help, is he?
Yeah, it doesn't do a thing, but it shows up right here, audio waveform. And what we have to do is set this audio layer. So audio layer, if we change it to voiceover.wave, you can see immediately we get this effect right here, right?
Well, I know when I called Landscape 911, they helped me out of a real bind.
They sure did. So, of course, we can change the inside and outside color here. I'm just sampling once again.
My in-laws were coming from overseas.
And source, no. I want to look at path right here. So if you look down here, we've got path. And here we can actually choose to set the path to our mask. So let's go ahead and do that. Right on.
In-laws were coming from overseas, and we're expecting to see a garden paradise with weeds.
All right, so you can see it's wrapped around the path like that. However, it's kind of cutting stuff off. You can see here, it only goes as far as the mask is. So what we kind of have to do is change our mask expansion right here. If I open that up, you can see how that works. It opens up that mask expansion so that we get the entire...
With weeds everywhere, yellow grass, and a lump of who knows what in the corner. I needed help. And fast.
Yeah, we got all that stuff going on. So one thing I want to do is bring this up a bit. And just the whole solid. We could change the mask as well, but it kind of makes sense to just move the solid. So I want to put that generally targeting right there. And now it's kind of centered.
Because it was
right?
An emergency, as they called it, they arrived almost immediately.
So cool. So that's an audio waveform. You know, there's good things about both of these. But audio spectrum is one that I actually like a bit better. So I'm going to turn off the effects for my audio waveform. I'm going to pull audio spectrum onto my solid. So with audio spectrum, we can again choose our audio layer. That's going to be vo.wave. And again, we can choose our path. So if I just keep it like it is, it's just going to be a straight line.
As they called it. They arrived almost immediately with a crew.
Which is pretty cool. We could make that work. But if I want it to use that circular path, I can choose path, mask 1. And then what we got
almost immediately
is this.
That would have impressed Napoleon. Needless to say, calling Landscape 911.
All right. So we can see how that works, and it's working out pretty good. Let's change our bands Let's make it kind of solid, right? The more bands I put in here, the more solid it's going to look.
They arrived almost immediately with a crew that would have impressed Napoleon. Needless to say.
Cool. And let's see. Let's take a little break here. I see a number of people are joining, so welcome to my little impromptu stream. This was a stream that was planned for 4 o'clock Pacific. However, I have to be up in Boulder, Colorado this evening. So I wasn't sure how long this would take, so I'm going to do it earlier today. So that's what we're up to. So we got inside color, outside color. Let's go ahead and make some samples on there to get that more in line with what we're looking at in terms of grass.
They arrived almost immediately with a crew that would have impressed Napoleon.
Pretty cool.
Needless to say, calling Landscape 911 saved my yard.
Save my yard. All right. So what are some other things we can do? We can change the start and end frequency in case you want to adjust that. Frequency bands we had. Maximum height. And actually, let's scrub over to somewhere where we've got some height. There we go. So maximum height is going to change how that looks, as you can see. That looks pretty good.
That would have impressed Napoleon. Needless to say, calling Landscape 911 saved my yard, my skin, and probably my marriage. Out of a real bind.
All right, so that's pretty extreme. I might go back a little bit on that. Let's see, we've got, yeah, let's pull it down a little bit. Let's not go too crazy. All right, thickness, we can change the thickness of our lines, right? We can bomb that out. Our softness, so change the softness of each line. What are some other things? Oh, this is interesting. So we can change from digital to analog lines or analog dots. They're not that different, I guess, here, but here's what that looks like.
Real bind. You see, my in-laws were
coming from overseas, and we're expecting to see a garden.
So it's starting to notice we're doing this on full. Let's take it down to half. After Effects will do stuff like that. It will like kind of like demonify your voice if it needs more processing power. It'll slow it down as it attempts to render everything.
Paradise. With weeds everywhere, yellow grass, and a lump of who knows what in the corner.
Yeah, who knows what that is. So, oh, we can change the sides too. So like right now you can see
I needed help. And fast.
it kind of goes on both sides. You can always change that. So if we only wanted side A,
Where yellow grass,
then it only goes inside the circle, inside the path.
I needed help.
And if we do side B, of course it goes
And fast. Because it was an emergency, as they
outside the path. I'm going to keep it on an A and B, I think. And another thing I want to do, so that's pretty good for the spectrum. So you can use either waveform or spectrum. They just both work a little bit differently in terms of how the audio is represented, right? So we haven't done anything with our actual audio amplitude yet. I created this audio amplitude layer from our actual audio layer that's inside here, the vo.wave. And it created all these little keyframes for us, but we haven't done anything with that yet. So let's actually map something to that. We have our landscape 911 right here. Want to make this react to the waveform as well, the audio data. So to do that, what I'm going to do is hold down my Alt or Option key, and inside of my text for landscape 911, click on the stopwatch for scale. Oops, I need to unlock that first. There we go. And this gives me access to the expression pick whip. And that's going to allow me to map the value of my scale to other data, right? So I want to map this to my both channels data right here from my audio keyframes. So I'm going to use that pick whip and just drag it up there. And see that? It works. If you've ever seen me do layer parenting inside of Adobe Animate, this works exactly the same way as the layer parenting mechanisms. You just do that, and then it adds a little bit of code in there. And this code is going to basically say, hey, I want you to map the this value to this property right here. So what that's going to do,
Man isn't afraid of asking for a little help, is he?
you can see him in the middle there. So the scale is based on the actual volume. So as you can tell, when the voiceover is quiet, the scale is basically 0, right? So that's no good. What we can do is we can add a multiplier to this. So if I go down in here, right after that last parenthesis, I can put like 0.2, or not 0.2, multiply by 2. That's going to multiply it by a factor of 2.
A real man isn't
which isn't quite enough. Let's try 4. Multiply by 4.
I say. A real man isn't afraid of asking for a little help, is he? Well, I know when I called Landscape 911, they helped me out of a real bind. You see, my in-laws were coming from overseas.
So pretty good. But of course there's other stuff we can do, right? So what are some additional things to do here? I am going to go ahead and add some effects to this thing. So inside of my effects and presets here, I'm going to look for light, because I want to add some lighting to this. Let's do CC light burst or CC light rays. These are generative lights. And I want to add them to my green solid. Let's try light rays, see how that works. Pop it on there. And let's see.
To see a garden.
Not sure that's actually working very well. Let's remove that. Just hit delete. Let's do light burst. I know light burst will look really good. There we go. So with light burst, we can choose a color. Again, for the light burst, we've got the burst itself. Do we want it to be straight? Do we want it to fade? Do we want it to center? You can choose set color if you want to change that color. I'm going to sample here from my grass. There we go. And again, we've got our length, we have our intensity and so forth. So find something that works for
In-laws were coming from
you.
overseas and
Slow it down again, see? Which is kind of fun. So you'll notice, of course, when we have this effect, it sort of blurs out everything else. We can always copy this, so Command or Control C on green solid 1, Command Control V, and then we'll just remove that light burst right there. And what this is going to do is give us sort of like a shadow burst.
Paradise. With weeds everywhere.
Yeah. So pretty fun. Let's see. So we need, what do we have here? We turn off the light burst. We've got our spectrum. For audio layer, we have to switch that back to vo.wave.
Expecting to see a garden paradise.
There we go.
With weeds everywhere, yellow grass, and a lump of who knows what in the corner.
Yikes. My goodness. So we can try to modify that code a little bit too. So what do we have here? Times 4. wonder if we can do a plus, I don't know, 30. Yeah, that'll keep it at least at a minimum of 30 or 60 in terms of the scale. Yeah, let's do 60. This might make it too big though.
They helped me out of a real bind.
Nice. So we're going to take the multiplication by 4 down. Let's take that in half. Put it by 2. Because we're already starting at 60, right?
Enough is enough, I say.
It sounds so punitive. All right. So let's see. That's pretty good, actually. I mean, yeah. Let's see. So yeah, you know, there's not a lot of chat going on. Let me know how everyone is doing in the chat if you like. And yeah, I mean, I might come back on.
I know when I call.
I might come back on at like 4 when I'm supposed to, Pacific time, to actually fulfill that that note there. Maybe I'll do some fresco or something. I don't know. Maybe I'll just chat.
Asking for a little help, is he? Well, I know when
I called Landscape 911, they helped me out of a real bind. You see, my in-laws were coming from overseas, and were expecting.
Well, I know when I called Landscape.
So something we could always do in a case like this, right, is we can always go in here and in preview, we could make sure to do a little RAM preview, right? And let's see. Let's cache before playback. There we go. So cache before playback, it's going to go ahead and you can see it filling up right here. It's making sure we have enough of my content rendered before it tries to play it, right? But yeah, that's a pretty cool effect. And yeah, Landscape 911, right? I actually meant to change the font from Blackbeard to something else, and I didn't, but that's okay. And what do we have here? Right on. So, landscape. This is going to take forever to render, so I'm not going to render the whole preview. But we've got this much rendered.
Still trying to get that yard into shape? Enough is enough, I say.
Yeah. The only other thing I might do is maybe we put a little blur on our grass. So I don't know how this is going to work out, but we'll see. Let's search for blur. And radial blur, perhaps? No, that's not working out. Let's delete that. And instead, well, that's strange. I don't know why it's telling me my video quality is poor, because in OBS I've got like mega bandwidth right now. Let's do just a simple Gaussian blur. We'll place this on Adobe Stock. There we are. That just blurs it out a little tiny bit. It makes it a little bit softer.
Well, I know when I called landscape...
Yes, yes, we know, Joseph. Yeah, so you can imagine there's all sorts of other things that you could place on here, all sorts of different effects that you could have rendered on the visualization on whatever you're doing. So I think we're going to leave it like that. I'm going to lock down all my little layers here. Landscape 911. Look at that. Boom. That's pretty massive. Yeah, I mean, we could do some stuff to this overlying one. It's a little chunky. I don't know, maybe we could change the blend modes or something. Put a little blur on that. I got my Gaussian blur here, right? Let's just drop that on there. And just soften that up a bit. Of course, we could also render less elements here too. Take these frequency bands down quite a bit. Something like that.
With weeds everywhere, yellow grass.
Yeah, this thing cannot keep up. And let's see how it looks actually with only side B. Or no, I don't want that. Let's do straight burst. Well, I don't know.
Garden paradise. With weeds everywhere, yellow grass, and a lump of who knows what in the corner. I needed help. And fast.
Fast. All right, cool. I don't know. I mean, it's a little thick. Take the softness up a bit, maybe. Yeah, there's always the point in a project, right?
Who knows what in the corner. I needed help. And fast.
That's pretty good, actually. Yeah, I mean, you can tweak this stuff all afternoon. And it doesn't really change anything. So I think I'm going to keep it like this.
Bind. You see, my...
All right, let's render this guy out. So, Landscape 911. Let's go to Composition. I'm going to add this to Adobe Media Encoder. You could also add it to the render queue if you want like a super high quality version of it. I'm going to pop it into my Adobe Media Encoder render queue because that'll give me a nice MP4 that I can upload to Behance in a little bit. And Media Encoder is opening up. It just takes a moment. Oh, apparently I've never opened it on this new machine yet. Which is just fine, really. It's taking some time. Taking its sweet time to open up. There it is. Yeah, this is the first time I've run Media Encoder on this machine, so it's asking for all sorts of permissions and things. There it is. All right. Let's go ahead and crank that out. We got our little preview down here. It's connecting to dynamic link to grab that comp out of my After Effects project. and to render it. And this could take some time. So I think I'm going to leave the stream at that because nobody wants to sit there and watch me render video. Actually doing stuff in After Effects is cool, but watching a progress bar for 30 or 40 minutes probably is not. And I don't know how long this is actually going to take, but yeah. Anyhow. So yeah, I may come back at 4 p.m. Pacific just to say hello. But otherwise, that is what was planned for today. And I think it came out pretty good, actually. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream. So I hope everybody has a good day, good week, and see you all next week. Or whenever. Maybe at 4.